talk about putting it all together, kind of the high level overview of instructional design and how it works. Just so you kind of understand, how everything is fitting together as you learn about, what is instructional design. All right, so we start out with this first thing. You can see I have a chart here on my screen. For those of you that are listening, I'm just going to describe everything. But to start out, we have something called the performance analysis. That's where we figure out what is the problem. So if training is the problem, we continue on with instructional design. If training is not the problem, then we solve the problem with our other means. That might involve, fixing an error on a website. That might involve, motivating employees or something. Whatever it is, whatever the intervention is, we solve it with other means. That might involve other teams. If it's a training problem, we continue on with instructional design. So our next step, now that we know it's a training problem, we say, what is the problem? What is the best instructional design model we can use to solve it? All models are based on some form of ADDIE. It's really how you do the process. So what model are we going to use? Are we going to use Dick and Carey? Are we going to use Assure? What are we going to choose? But we choose the model for the problem. Okay, so once we've selected our model, we're going to follow it. But I'm going to go through and just describe, basic ADDIE. The ADDIE model, because how you do each of these processes is going to be different. So I'm not going to describe that, but I'm going to give you the basic end results and kind of what you do at each one of these phases. So first we have our analysis. This is where we're going to say, what is the gap? What do the learners need? What do we have? What do we need? So we do a learner analysis, a context analysis, and at the end of the analysis, we should have a solution. What are our goals to solve this training problem? How are we going to do it? That leads us into the next step, which is design. This is where we actually design whatever the training is. This is where we select our instructional strategies for retention. Those are things like we're going to use problem-based learning. We're going to have motivational theory. Things like that. We're going to put those into our instruction to make it so that our learners can learn better. Then we have to organize it somehow. So I look at different organizational strategies, like, make sure that you have your objectives first, then present your content, then have some kind of assessment and feedback. So make sure you're organizing your content well in your design. And this is where, so in the design phase, we design it, we create our learning objectives, we create all of our assessments, and the end result of what the design phase is really the beginning of development, which is where we create our storyboards. We create our storyboards, leads us into development. We're ready to develop. So we develop whatever it is we said we were going to do, whether that's computer-based instruction, web-based instruction, a instructor-led course, a game, a simulation. We develop whatever the deliverables may be. That could be an instructor guide to an advanced, virtual reality simulation. So whatever it is, we're going to develop it. And finally, to conclude, we're going to implement it out, roll it out, and then we're going to evaluate it. And really, for implementation, it's really, how are we rolling it out? Are the learners now using it? And for evaluation, now we evaluate through the whole process, but for our final summative evaluation, we select some kind of an evaluation model. So this is where we're going to choose an evaluation model like Kirkpatrick's. And we're going to ask, are the learners learning? Did they like it? Is this actually working? What is the return on investment? Is transfer happening? But we evaluate it to find out if that's effective. So that's the whole instructional design process. It starts from this performance analysis where we determine if it's even a training problem. And if it is, we move on to choosing our instructional design model and go from there. But that's the basic overview of what instructional design is. There's a lot more to it, and each of these steps, you can go way more in depth into them and what these are. But this is just designed, this little presentation is just designed to be the very high level, like putting it all together. How does this fit in? It's one of the things that I find that students have a lot of problems with, even towards the end of a master's program, is really what's the big picture? This is the big picture. This is how it all fits together. So you need to really sit down and try to think like, how does all this work, and is this making sense? Because it's not complicated, but sometimes we make it more complicated than it really needs to be. Thank you.